Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and the new Loki trailer released at Disney Investor Day was the most puzzling Rubik's Cube of Marvel lore and pop culture conspiracy that MCU fans have seen in years, suggesting that the God of Mischief is the madman behind historical mysteries like D.B. Cooper in the Polybius game. As a student of conspiracy thinking myself, my shot-by-shot breakdown of that trailer was one of my favorite videos that I've ever done at New Rockstars. But despite all the cool stuff that I found, there are even more hidden clues that, when you decipher these, actually do start to line up what the hell this series will be. So let's shift forward now from our discovery and investigation phase to analysis. What is Loki? Who is this version of Loki? And to paraphrase Drax, why is Loki? The trailer reminds us that Loki escaped Avengers Endgame during the time heist sequence, stealing the fumbled Tesseract/Space Stone in 2012 and zipping away to some unknown destination. The trailer's editing tricks us into thinking he then traveled in a Bifrost-like wormhole until being spit back out in the Mongolian Gobi Desert, but not so fast. Loki no longer has the mouth restraint and cuffs that he had the moment of his departure, and he does not appear to have the Tesseract in that desert, and as an experienced teleporter via the Tesseract and the Bifrost, he would not have crash landed in some accidental region like this. So what really happened on the other side of Loki's endgame escape remains a mystery, but we know that he ends up in the hands of the TVA, that is the Time Variance Authority, the timeline investigators of the Marvel Comics. Owen Wilson plays, according to the closed captioning, Mobius M Mobius, a recurring TVA agent in the comics. His name connects to the geometric shape of a Mobius strip, which was actually referenced in Endgame when Tony Stark cracked the code of time travel.
This time in the shape of a Mobius strip, inverted, please.
The inverted Mobius strip is a two-dimensional planar ribbon twisting and smoothly looping back on itself. Keep that in mind for later. So the TVA is detaining Loki because he is the out-of-place smoking gun of the Avengers screwing with this timeline. That allowed him to cheat death. He was supposed to die 6 years later in that timeline. That is what Mobius is showing him here, projections of his arrest in Avengers in 2012, and then later that timeline's version of Loki involved in the Ragnarok event in 2017, which of course would lead to his appointment with the world's worst chiropractor in Infinity War. If that makes you cringe, hey look, you got something in common with Loki. Mobius brings Loki in front of a time court presided over by Gugu Mbatha-Raw as some kind of judge. In the comics, there's TVA judges like Justice Peace, Justice Love, Justice Goodwill, but behind her are these three faces, which is where we're gonna do some analyzing beyond what I did in the breakdown, because in the breakdown, I wondered if these three could represent the multiple faces of the living tribunal, a cosmic judge who we have been waiting to see come into the MCU for a while. But these are actually the Time Keepers, TVA figures created by the final TVA agent at the end of all time, named He Who Remains. Their function is to teach future members of the next universal cycle how to avoid the errors of the past, and to be kind of living batteries of chronal power, time energy, accumulated to support TVA retirees. I know, it's great, right? The problem is, in the comics, the Timekeepers creation also creates the Time Twisters, another trio who end up screwing up the multiverse until they are eventually stopped by Thor and other Avengers, because Asgardians, as near immortals, are able to resist the time manipulation powers of the Timekeepers and the Time Twisters. And that clues us into why this court needs Loki. As an Asgardian, Loki can resist the restrictions of time manipulation and travel across timelines as adeptly as members of the TVA can. That is what Mobius meant by
time passes differently here in the TVA. What does that mean? You'll catch up.
I think the TVA and this time court is giving Loki an opportunity to escape conviction for his timeline violation by helping them with an assignment that only he can fulfill. That assignment? To find and stop another worse time criminal. Now, I'm assuming this Loki plot is going this way partially because the showrunner of Loki is Rick and Morty writer Mark Waldron, and this all reminds me a lot of the Council of Ricks episode when Rick is dragged into court and has to clear his name by hunting down a way more evil Rick, who ends up being a puppet of a way more evil Morty. Anyway, in Loki's case, the even worse time criminal is also himself, but an alternate reality, female form, Lady Loki. We believe this is Sophia DiMartino's character. She is the one in the hood. She is the one sitting on the planet about to be crushed by a moon. Now, I'm not making this up. Lady Loki has a basis in the Marvel Comics. After the Ragnarok event in the comics, Loki's soul follows the natural cycle of Norse myth and returns in a new body, this time a female female form. And if we follow that logic to the MCU, after Loki died in Infinity War, his spirit could have left his corpse and then come back in the body of a female. In fact, in the trailer, we see a young girl who could be a young version of that Lady Loki. And as another Asgardian, Lady Loki would be able to resist the control of the Timekeepers. Bringing Loki back this way would fulfill Loki's promise to Thor.
I assure you, brother, the sun will shine on us again.
And preserve both phases of Loki's character development in the MCU, the dastardly 2012 trickster and the somewhat redeemed 2018 antihero. And while 2018 Loki seemed to come a long way in terms of his morality, let's face it folks, he's still a dirty bastard who likely would have gone through a lot in a post-blip universe. Think about it, waking up in a female body after the snap, he might have just thought, well, screw it, the world's on fire and honey, you should see me in a crown. Trailer footage shows her sitting on a planet, seemingly awaiting death. And then another shot shows Loki running across that planet's surface as this cracked moon crashes down on them. Maybe we are seeing the very end of the universe. Lady Loki could be she who remains, and Loki has to save her to figure out all the ways she messed up the timeline. Maybe she created those timekeepers to begin with, and then now they need to destroy the consequences. That could be why Loki promised to Mobius while they were sitting in the TVA,
I'm gonna burn this place to the ground.
So how does Loki find her? How do the time travel mechanics of this show work? But before we continue, thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. Do you feel like you're not able to access all the content you would like to on the internet? Are you worried about hackers and scammers stealing your information? You should be, and if so, ExpressVPN is your solution. ExpressVPN is a virtual private network that encrypts your data to keep it from being stolen or tracked, and it can grant you access to blocked content. Like Netflix in the UK has content that US Netflix doesn't have, like South Park or Rick and Morty. At this point, you've probably watched everything on your country's version of Netflix, right? Imagine getting a whole new batch of content without having to pay for another streaming service. ExpressVPN allows you to reroute your internet connection to a server in a country of your choice, making geo restrictions a thing of the past. ExpressVPN is also helpful for preventing your online data from being stolen or monitored without your knowledge. I really like ExpressVPN because their servers operate at the fastest speeds and it is super easy to use. No confusion, no wasted time. Just fire up the app and connect with just one click. It is the top rated VPN provider, rated #1 by TechRadar, CNET, and many more. Find out how you can get 3 months free by clicking the link in the description box below. expressvpn.com/newrockstars. Again, that's expressvpn.com/newrockstars. Well, they seem to all be related to this elevator, where there are seemingly random 3-character floor designations and buttons in the middle that might correspond to how to travel from timeline to timeline or what to do to those timelines. I started going into this in the breakdown. When Loki, Mobius, and the Chronomonitors raid that rocks cart, they arrive through these glowing rectangular portals, which I assume is what those elevator doors look like on the other side in the destination timeline. Now there's this Redditor, Zach Quasick, who attempted to decode these with an alphanumeric substitution and multiplication by 10 or 100 to try to derive numeric designations of known Marvel realities. It was a great attempt. I love that other people like this exist, but so far this system isn't really consistently applied. The results are all over the place. Still, good work. In the meantime, I'm sticking with my theory that the 3 characters correspond to the 3 dimensions of space. Imagine an X, a Y, and a Z axis. They represent a point somewhere in 3-dimensional space. Theoretical physicists like Einstein suggested that to travel through time or to teleport across 3-dimensional space, we would have to bend 3-dimensional space and puncture a hole in it. This is called a wormhole or an Einstein-Rosen bridge.
More like a rainbow bridge.
So to visualize this for you with some amazing prop design, we got FE3 here. It's a X, Y, and a Z axis, a point in 3-dimensional space. And then we also got L, K, and 3, another point in 3-dimensional space. To connect these, you would have to kind of bend 3-dimensional space on itself and then try to connect them. So we got time travel and we got time travel. This hole that it just punches is a 4th dimensional axis on that grid, and it is the dimension of time. It's kind of impossible for us as 3-dimensional beings to perceive. But yeah, it's kind of like that. Ba-boom, ba-boom. This is the elevator shaft. Like, whatever. Christopher Nolan tried to convey this with a Tesseract in Interstellar. Loki is simplifying it with a Wonkavator. It's very elegant, very Douglas Adams. I love it. But our 2012 Loki is not going to play by the rules, and that is how we end up with the madcap cluster that we see in this trailer. Loki appears in a post-apocalyptic New York. You can actually see Avengers Tower there. We can interpret this as Loki living in a version of Earth if his Chitauri invasion in the first Avengers movie was successful. And we know Loki will go back to that because notice this moment in the trailer.
Glorious.
That mirror is in the penthouse of Stark Tower. And if you look closely in the reflection, Loki is carrying the scepter there. He is giving himself a redo for that battle. We also see shots of Loki in that trashy lair. There's the throne with the L over it, and he's all done up with a torn suit and a Loki for President pin. We might be looking at that same dystopian post-Loki victory future, where Thanos might have left Loki in charge of Earth, and Loki, as he did in the Vote Loki comics, so great, he convinces America to elect him on the message that he had the balls to lie to them. Also in the breakdown, I pointed out 2 historical mysteries this trailer is suggesting Loki is behind. Obviously, there's the DB Cooper thing, with Loki being suggested as that mystery airline hijacker who parachuted out with $200,000 and was never found. Turns out Heimdall helped him out with that. And then there's the Polybius game, an apocryphal arcade game that tech bloggers claim existed in the 80s, hypnotizes players, and was part of some government conspiracy to study gamers. Both very cool details, but another detail I spotted in this trailer was Loki in some mystery setting with Roman numerals on a nearby wall equating to 79. And I cannot believe I didn't put this together at the time, because I swear to you, one of the historical mysteries I actually thought about while I was writing that breakdown script was the famous Latin Sator Square, the inspiration for another Christopher Nolan film, Tenet. That palindromic matrix, Sator, Arepo, Tenet, Opera, Rhodos, has no verified translation. No one knows what it means. It's just a cool palindrome that works in multiple dimensions. But a few of those were recovered in the ruins of Pompeii, which was destroyed in a volcanic eruption in the year 79 AD. Loki is in Pompeii there, folks. And yes, another mystery the Loki series will explore, the final days of Pompeii, and even perhaps the mystery of that Sator Square relic that even Christopher Nolan couldn't make sense of. That, my friends, is why I am so freaking pumped for this series. It's the true MCU time heist that I actually wanted from Endgame, but with one of my favorite characters taking cues from Rick and Morty and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, intersecting with real-world conspiracy theories and urban myths. Don't be surprised if I make 100 videos about it between now and May. Do you think I'm an idiot for bringing up Mephisto so much in WandaVision videos? Well, Mephisto's in Loki, and I haven't even gotten to that yet. But you can support my insanity by checking out our wonderful merch store, newrockstarsmerch.com. Lots of great stuff to buy there. Follow me at EA Voss. Follow New Rockstars. Thank you for watching. Boom!